Eagle Community Television presents Community Connection with your host, Mike Cooper.
Welcome to Community Connection from Eagle Community Television, Channel 14. Thanks for watching. We're in the offices of the owner of Heartland Building Center, Verlin Pfannenstiel, or at least part owner now, I guess we should say. Heartland Building Center, 2502 Vine was the original location, and now they're in the Centennial Center with about 120 years of history in the community and in the area. And a good part of that, for a good number of years of that, say about 50, is the owner, Verlin Pfannenstiel. We wanted to visit with Verlin and catch a little community connection on his take on the business, of course, but also on some of the projects that he and the family have been up to lately. And one question, Verlin, to begin with, the question that probably 90% of us guys want to know: are you handy around the house? Can you do those to-do lists that Elaine has planned for you?
I think I can do many of them, but I don't always do them.
How do you get out of that?
Well, if I can find somebody else to do it, I will do that.
Or just say, no, I'm sorry, I'd like to do this, but I got to go to work.
That's right.
5 kids and now some grandkids. Tell us about the kids and where they are.
Well, we have 2 of them here in Hayes, and we have 2 in Wichita and have 1 in Manhattan.
What are the grandkids situation? Catch us up on that now, Verlin.
Well, we do get to see quite a few of them, get to see them going out of town, see them in their towns, and they do come back here and back home quite a bit too.
So you and Elaine get to travel some to see the grandkids as well as them coming to visit you.
Yes, we do.
Quite a connection that happens, but that's always been a big part of the Pfannenstiel family, hasn't it, Verlin?
Yep. Good family life.
What do you do for fun?
I'd say probably a lot of it has to do with Fort Hayes, as far as saying, where do we go? We enjoy the Fort Hayes athletics, so as the year moves on, Larks games in the summertime, and a lot of athletics.
And you have a real tie to Fort Hayes State too, Verlin. Part of your influence, I think, probably from Fort Hayes State and the time you spent there, right?
Being able, as an older student, I guess I'd say I was 28 years old when I went back, that gave you an opportunity and make you appreciate Fort Hayes and that they were in our community, because if they wouldn't have been here, myself or even Elaine would never been able to get back and finish our education. You
and you had a later start, if you will, on your college education due to some other commitments, right, Verlin?
Well, I started here at Heartland Building Center at the age of 20 as a bookkeeper, and so I did, while for 2 or 3 years I did go back and pick up some extra hours in accounting. It was only in '68 that I went back to finalize my degree.
What led you to then Schwaller Lumber Company, if you will, as a potential career? Because at that point it may not have seemed like a career.
At the point I really was searching for a career yet, because going back to teaching position really was something that I was looking at, but it didn't take me too much time, 1 semester, to figure that wasn't going to be it.
What were some of the Fort Hayes influences, Verlin, that you liked about Fort Hayes State? Your association with them, of course, later on in the years as an alumnus and such.
I'd say probably that you feel kind of like, I wouldn't want to say ownership, but something that makes you feel a part of. And later on I became involved in the Fort Hayes Foundation and spent some years being in that capacity there. So, and it's just an involvement and getting to know people. You become friends with people. It's been a good history on that.
Verlin, you have a long history of involvement in not only Fort Hayes State, but also the community as well. I'm thinking particularly of your time at the USD 489 School Board when you served for all those years. Talk about that for a few minutes.
That was a very good experience, and what I did find out, or say what I really thought was we do have a very good education system here, and not because we say it's good. It's easy to say it's good, but people that moved to town, whether I met them here at the business or as part of USD 489, the ones that came to town, it was amazing how many of them would say you have a very good education system here in Hayes, and they were very well satisfied, and also that was one of the reasons they chose Hayes.
You're also involvement with the Festival of Faith in the initial stages of that. Why your involvement in that particular area?
Well, I guess basically because I knew the community and knew so many pastors in the community that's here at the time, and I guess you can always say you knew Reverend Miller, so you become involved.
And that type of involvement really kind of underpins what the whole Verlin Pfannenstiel idea is about, isn't it? And that's family, faith, strong community, those kind of basic core values.
Well, I always feel those are, and health along with them, those are always the issues that you look at, you involve yourself in, so.
Is there something about, after 50 years, sometimes people think about retirement, but is that in the Verlin Pfannenstiel future?
Not retirement, not as long as I could keep going. I mean, that's my life, that's my interest, and I've got to stay involved, so.
At the time that we're here, Verlin, we see people in and out of the office all the time. There's still that strong connection, not only with the community, but with people, to the fact that you do represent now Heartland Building Center and formerly Schwaller Lumber Company, I think.
Well, I'm still here, still part of my life, so.
And
it's
plan to be for quite a while.
Yes, and it's just nice in all these years seeing the customers, the contractors, as you see them, and that would be hard to give up.
What do you like about the area? Western Kansas, Ellis County, Hayes, those type of things. What's the staying power for the Pfannenstiels?
I guess being the history, being born here, and for me, I've never experienced life outside of Ellis County or outside of Western Kansas, and so even when I do leave, I'm always anxious to come back. So
talk about the business a little bit, if you will, Verlin. Going back to 120 years now in beginning of Schwaller Lumber Company, downtown, as a matter of fact. What was it, 9th and Main, I believe, was
right.
where the original store was, and then you moved to the Vine Street location, and just from there, then expanding to Russell and Stockton. Was that a big decision to make?
Not really. I mean, there were opportunities that became available, and knowing that it would enhance your distribution area, and it was a time where you need the challenges, and you could see where the growth was coming. So it was within your trade area. So it was a fairly easy decision.
I was thinking about this earlier, and the fact that Schwaller Lumber Company, now Heartland Building Center, has sustained over the years. I don't think there's another business that could say that it has that track record, Verlin.
The industry has changed a lot. When you look back in the early 60s, or even before that, say around my starting time, there was many small lumber yards. Hayes maybe have had 4 or 5 lumber yards, but I'd say probably being able to sustain it is being willing to make the changes or seeing the changes that need to be made and following through on them.
Just staying with the business day to day, basically, and seeing what's ahead.
Right, and being able to see us, for instance, you worked on unloading boxcars by the piece, and as it changed, the change that was made in going to forklifts, and instead of the lumberyard putting the boards in and out of the bins, you totally changed the philosophy and the handling, the amount of business you could do by changing to forklifts and setting up in that direction.
A couple of other things on the business, if we could, Verlin, and that's a lot of business owners would like to know, after your 50 years and the 120 years of the business itself, what's the secret of success? If you could pin it down, can you tell, have you thought about what the secret of the success of the business is?
Well, for this company and what we're in, I'd say probably the decision that I was probably made in the mid-'80s or something like that, that I realized that the difference was going to be in having a workforce that was productive and well-trained and knowledgeable. Mm-hmm. And there's just no question that it was basically a lot of it was going to be in employees in the workforce.
And people have always been a core part of Schwaller and Heartland, haven't they?
The employees?
Yes.
Yeah, and being able to hold them around and keep them here, you know. And we have some here 30, 40 years. In fact, I think the 10 employees that have been here the longest accumulated like 350 years, something like that, staying here.
As a consumer, Verlin, this is something that really appeals to us, is the knowledge of your staff whenever we come in, and whether it was lumber for the contractors, obviously, and even for some of those smaller projects. But just, you know, the right screw or the right nut or bolt or paint or whatever it may be, we can always depend on Heartland Building Center.
I think areas, that's it. Paint department, very important, the knowledge that you can give the products that are being used, how they relate, that they're being used effectively and also used right, because if they're not used correctly, you do more damage than put the wrong paint on, and you're going to have a problem for many years.
And the thing of how to do it has always been a central core part of Heartland as well, Verlin.
Right, it has been.
A lot of things figure into this, it seems like. What are we, about 70 employees now? Is that about right?
That's right.
On the number for Heartland Building Center. You've got your people, you've got the products, which have evolved over the years, from strictly lumber, basically, at one point, to now an all-purpose hardware store and department. The addition of things like the stoves, those kind of things over the years. The advice and the service, but also the confidence people have, I think, whether it's a contractor coming in or a person who just needs something for a weekend project, Verlin, the confidence when they walk through the doors at Heartland.
We've always felt that if a customer, somebody comes in and needs information or something they need, that they leave the store satisfied. Not necessarily that we're able to answer their problem, but at least they're satisfied that we did the best we could to help them and maybe send them in a direction that they could go.
Verlin Pfannenstiel, the co-owner, I guess, owner,
Co-owner.
Co-owner now,
Yes.
along with son Kurt, of Heartland Building Center in Hayes. And our thanks to Jeff Durall, our producer, and thanks to you for watching Community Connection from Eagle Community Television.